So hi and welcome back to Yesterday Today Sewing. Now when you started watching my YouTube channel, I'm afraid you did sign up for the Too Much Information package, and today in my Too Much Information is to let you know that I need underwear, or more specifically I need layering things. So I have had a single stretch cotton slip that I have been wearing to death for I don't know how long, and I just cannot find anything to replace it that is just cotton and not polyester or some super stretchy tummy holding in super shaping type of thing, and I don't want that. I want just something simple, comfortable, that I can wear under my dresses or skirts and shirts or whatever. Something that's made of a natural material that's going to breathe as part of it, and I want them to be a little bit pretty. Is that too much to ask? And I haven't found anything in all my shopping, so I thought, okay, it's time to make it. So then I had to think about, well, what am I going to do? I've been on this sort of sourcing from historical sources, getting ideas from historical sources. So I thought, well, let's go through it. Let's see what I can find to help me think about making myself some underthings, some layers. And so in my searching, I started on the Delineator because I have discovered this beautiful magazine from, I think, Canada, maybe, that goes through sort of Victorian, Edwardian times. And I found some lovely versions of things through the years, you know, like a long ruffled petticoat like that. I would love something like that. They've got pretty chemises, things like that, which I think could be pretty easy to make with just some lovely lace and ribbon. Moving on a few years from those which are probably late Victorian, this is coming up to 1917, and I'm looking at some of these lovely slips and chemises, you know, something with just a little bit of shaping, like this princess lined one here, or, you know, just with a few pin tucks as well on here, although I'm not sure about doing that bit down there. Pretty much more of the same. And then I also found this lovely old, I think that was a Butterick pattern. I don't know if it says on this particular picture, but a slip from the probably 30s, which I think could make it really nice as well as something to wear under other things. So I'm going to go on a bit of a chemise petticoat slip kind of making journey over this next little bit, and I'll be making the odd camisole or the odd petticoat or the odd slip or chemise, or really whatever takes my fancy, in between other projects that I'm doing, and just see what I come up with, taking inspiration from a few of these things but not sort of slavishly copying them either. I'm not looking to exactly replicate what they have here, but just to use them as inspiration for layering things that I can use in my everyday wardrobe. So to get started, I thought I could go back and completely draft from scratch, but I thought, well, maybe I don't need to. Maybe I should go through my old patterns from years past and see what I can find that might be of some use. And I do have a couple that I can work from. This, if you'll excuse the bad stain on it, was a Butterick pattern from, and I can remember exactly when I made this one up. I bought this in 1991. I was in year 12, and for my school formal I made up one of these sort of little camisoles there, I think, to wear under a lovely taffeta jacket and velveteen skirt. Loved that ensemble. So I thought that would be a really useful thing. I also remembered this birder skirt that I made up probably about 15 years ago, maybe even a bit longer. I probably didn't strictly need a pattern for this one, but when I saw it I thought, oh yeah, I've just got to try and make that. So I bought it when it was on sale, I think, way back when. And you know what, I've been wearing that skirt that I made from this pretty much ever since. So it's been in a 15-year rotation, but it would also be a good basis to very simply start a long petticoat or even a short petticoat for that matter, without having to draft something from scratch. So I can work from a few of those as I do it as well. I have plenty of things like black lawn. I think this is a bit of rayon. I've got some white and off-white lawn that I can work with, and I also have tons and tons and tons and tons of different lace, so I can just start prettying it up and seeing what happens. So for my first one, I think I'm just going to make a simple white shift, maybe a little bit like this, but not quite as full. So I might sort of give it more, a bit of the shaping around, you know, something like, or this, maybe not the full-on princess like that. Anyway, we'll see. Make it about knee length or just below, and see how that goes. So come join me as I make some pretty lacy under things. So as you can see here, I have started with my existing camisole pattern. Had to size it up a little bit. I'm not as small as I once was, but I think this should work well. It's got the bust start there that will give it a little bit of shape, so I won't need to put it in gathers necessarily like my example ones. I've also gone for 2 different lengths on this pattern. I'm planning to make it knee length, but I figured while I'm at it, why not just extend it out, and then I'll have a pattern for a longer version that I can make at some stage. I'm into reusing things. For this I had a bit of mercerised cotton, quite a wide, I think 230 metres wide. Now I've pre-washed it. I'm never sure if you've got a pre-washed mercerised cotton, because I know the process of mercerisation stops it shrinking as much. If you've got any idea whether it's necessary or not, maybe leave a comment for me below. And yes, I could have pinned this, I probably should have, but I had my tailor's chalk right there, so it was just an easy matter of tracing it out before cutting. Whatever works. Tell me, is there a sound as nice as that crunch of the scissors going through fabric? It's just one of those noises that really does it for me. So anyway, having cut out both the front and back pieces, first thing to do is to pin and sew the darts. Now while I was doing this, I was thinking, how am I going to finish the seams? Because one of the things I really want to focus on over these next few projects is how I finish my clothing and try to make the inside as nice as the outside as well. So while my overlocker is fixed and I could do it, I think I would like to try something different. So what I thought I would do for this is French seams. The cotton's light enough that a French seam should work. And look, if you've never done a French seam before, it is easy. You basically put the wrong sides together and sew a narrow, about 5mm seam. Then you trim the seam down just a little bit if you need to. Turn it around so then you have the right sides together, and then stitch along your stitching line. It encloses the raw edge just beautifully for this really neat finish. I do love French seams. So with that together, it's now on to the ruffle. I just put a narrow bit of broderie lace on the bottom, and then it was the long and involved job of doing the gathering. I like doing 2 rows of gathering whenever I do it. It just seems to make it sit better and much easier to sew. So one just close to the stitching line and the other one even closer to the seam, to the cut edge. Which means, yes, for something this long, this is about double the width of the chemise. And I think it was mostly just the width of the fabric, and that seemed to work really well. And pro tip, after you've done your gathering stitch, always set your tension and your stitch length back straight away, because otherwise you'll be sewing for ages on the wrong tension and stitch length. Been there, done that far too many times. Because I didn't have any markings on this, I divided it into quarters to help distribute it evenly around the base of the petticoat. And yeah, then the long job of gathering it up and evening up said gathers to fit in there. I'm sure that this is not up to full Victorian, beautiful, precise, tiny hand-done pleats, but you know what? These work. And they look pretty darn good when you take a bit of care to make sure it's properly aligned. So again, now I had to think about how to finish off this edge. It would have been so much easier to overlock. I can't French seam this. So I decided I might hand fill this one down. And in order to do that, I trimmed back the gathered edge that I had just done, and then planned to fold over the base of the chemise to enclose that seam quite nicely. Yes, it's going to be a bit of hand stitching and a little bit time consuming, but I think it'll get a lovely finish around there. And while I was at it, I figured I might as well do the same thing as well for the lace at the bottom of that flounce. So here we come, hand stitching. And look, I never used to like hand stitching. It was always one of those boring processes. But, well, I'm back at work now. I have a 45 to 50 minute train trip each day, each way. And it's remarkably relaxing just sitting on the train doing your sewing. And of course the trains are virtually empty in this day and age, so there's no people watching to do, and I found it just very relaxing to sit there turning the seam, felling it down. Nice. So once I'd done that, I put this ribbon insertion lace at the top of my chemise. Hand stitched all of that too, and then once that was done, it's the simple job of using a safety pin to put the ribbon in. And there is something really satisfying about tying that bow at the end and feeling like, yes, job well done, love it. Until I realised, hang on, not done. I haven't done the shoulder straps yet. Because I decided not to make them out of fabric, I thought, let's just use some of that lace to make my shoulder straps. So had I thought about it earlier, I would have inserted them in between that lace and the chemise, but I didn't do that. So I've just using the pattern to mark where they've got to go here, and I'll just again stitch them on by hand and finish the edge nicely on the inside, and it will still look awfully neat, just not as neat as it might have. And yes, I could have unpicked, but I rationalised by saying, well, if I decide I need to change the length of these sleeves, it's probably easier if it's just sewed on the inside there. So yep, more train stitching. And there we go. She is done. And you know what? I think it's worth the time to do that hand finishing, to carefully sew the lace on so that you can hide it in between all the embroidery, and to just turn those edges so that you get a really neat finish. So much nicer than overlocking. So there you go. That is my lovely chemise. And thank you for joining me as I do it. Join me for more of my exciting sewing adventures as I make more underthings, petticoats, chemises, camisoles and other things, taking yesterday to today.